Do y'all remember when Donald Trump said this?
They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
Ooh, doggy, is he eating those words like a bucket of Big Mac sauce lately? Because Don the Con Man is essentially making good on part of that promise. You see, of late, he's taken to metaphorically walking right out onto Fifth Avenue, gun in hand, and shooting himself right in the foot.
Bing, 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 bing.
But unlike assassinating his political opponents with SEAL Team 6, Trump isn't immune from losing support in droves simply by opening his glorified Big Mac hole.
I actually tell our people, we don't need your vote. We got so many votes, we don't need them.
Really? You don't need the votes? Is that why Nikki Haley is sending cease and desist letters to the Haley Voters for Harris Super PAC to try to get them to stop using her name? You know, the pack of former Haley voters that turned against you to support Kamala? Well, that's odd, because I seem to recall you saying this.
What's your message to those Haley supporters, especially women voters? Will you try to bring them home by Election Day?
Well, she got very few voters relatively. I mean, I got almost, I guess, close to 90%. She got very few voters, and those voters are all coming to me.
Someone ought to tell Tiny Fingers to just stop opening his mouth already.
You know, nobody knew how radical left she was, but he's a smarter version of her.
You know what? Scratch that. Let's just let him word vomit a little more and hand this thing over to Harris and Walz on a silver platter.
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear.
But the former idiot-in-chief isn't just alienating his own supporters and driving them from his rallies in droves.
Crazy Kamala, who was here a week ago, lots of empty seats.
Now, Donald Trump sees the world a little differently than us. And make no mistake, violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed.
He is now also, as you heard earlier, praising his opponents on the Democratic ticket, calling Tim Walz a smarter version of Kamala Harris, which, aside from being unsurprisingly blatantly sexist, is just another in a string of failed attempts by him and his couch-loving running mate to attack Walz and Kamala. And while nobody who knows their ABCs is buying any of the stupid, weird, and baseless attacks that Trump is trying so desperately to pull out of his diaper and throw at the wall to see what sticks, luckily for him, the human skin puppets at Fox News are always around for him to stick his tiny little hand up their gaping assholes.
Talk about how you're going to handle this on the campaign trail. Will you just really hone in on how they voted in the past?
Well, I am. I'm going to be doing that, what he wants. If you look at his record with no walls, no security, let everybody in.
No walls, let everybody in. You bumbling buffoon, the man is the governor of Minnesota, which, fun fact, and this is true, borders fucking Canada.
He's worse than they are. You know, nobody knew how radical left she was, but he's a smarter version of her, if you want to know the truth. He's probably about the same as Bernie Sanders. He's probably more so than Bernie Sanders. She is more so than Bernie Sanders. That's got to be your guide, Bernie Sanders.
What the hell is this supposed to do? First, you compliment him, calling him smarter than Kamala, which, not the best optics considering.
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you?
She became a black person.
Just to be clear.
And then you try to attack him by saying he's as radical as Bernie Sanders? A, that's not even true. Walz is progressive, sure, but comparatively very moderate against Bernie Sanders. And on top of that, Bernie would have whooped your ass if he was the nominee in 2016 or 2020. People love his policies, and even voters on the right were excited about him. But folks, it got so much dumber than that in literally the next sentence.
And it's not a great guide. But there's never been a ticket like this. This is a ticket that would want this country to go communist immediately, if not sooner. He's very heavy into transgender. Anything transgender he thinks is great. He's not where the country is on anything.
Mr. President,
This is a shocking. Let me tell you.
Don't interrupt me, you dumb fuck. I'm cooking with gas right now before Tim Walz and the radical left take it away and replace the thermostat with shark batteries. Did I mention Hannibal Lecter?
This is a shocking pick. And I think it's very insulting to Jewish people.
And time! Wow, a minute and 5 seconds into the interview to pull the anti-Semitic card against the woman married to a Jewish man, folks. History was made today. That is a gold medal winning record.
Mr. President, is it true that your team thought for sure that it was going to be Josh Shapiro? Because there was one reporter who was at a J.D. Vance event yesterday, and there were some flyers printed up talking about how J.D. Vance, rather about how Mr. Shapiro was a fraud and corrupt and a lying con man and stuff like that. So it sounds like you were ready to take on him.
That sounds like what you would say.
Oh man, not the pot anti-Semitically calling the kettle black. Do you morons have any self-awareness, or is your nervous system just completely fried from having Trump's hands so far up your rectums? Genuine question. Any doctors or biologists in the audience, please let me know how that might work in the comments.
Look at this decision. This is a really bad decision for the country. You know, ultimately, I want the country to have good decisions.
Right, he's all about good decisions for the country, like cutting taxes for billionaires that fuck over the middle class, or stopping substantive border legislation so you can bitch and moan about it to your flock of sheeple. Or my personal favorite.
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that has him in check, but you're going to test it.
It's because ultimately what we want is for the country to do well.
Says the guy who was literally cheering the stock market crashing the other day because he could blame it on Kamala Harris, who has nothing to do with the stock market and isn't even president, which wouldn't even matter because they don't even have that much impact on the market anyway. If he knew dick about shit, he'd probably rightly blame BlackRock, but the tycoon buffoon doesn't know dick about shit. It is so ridiculous because there are incredibly intelligent people who support this absolute, to quote Rex Tillerson, moron and his imbecilic policies and incoherent ramblings. I know some. I'm sure all of you do. Hell, I'm even friends with some. But it never ceases to amaze me how those people who are doctors and lawyers and successful and smart can listen to this demented dipstick say this batshit insane stuff day in and day out and still be able to look themselves in the mirror and say, you know what? He's making a lot of sense. And thankfully, people like Tim Walz are giving kids free breakfast and lunch at school so they can actually function and learn properly regardless of their home lives or financial situation. Because without policies like that, apparently we will continue to breed both insanely stupid people that slop up his garbage like pigs at a trough, or book-smart people who clearly didn't quite grasp critical thinking. And even for the ones that did and still support him for selfish and psychotic reasons, those policies would still go a long way because they are progressive policies of good Christian values, loving thy neighbor, feeding the hungry. And if any Christian worth their salt actually believed in the Bible verses they use to tear down minorities and preach hate, then they would rather dive to the deepest depths of hell than vote for a blasphemous, sinning, false idol piece of shit human being like Donald J. Trump. Thanks for watching, folks. Smash that like button if you agree. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here and don't want to see Diaper Don elected in the fall. And if you can, we greatly appreciate your support here or on Patreon to help fund our grassroots organization, keep this kind of content coming up in your feed, and help elect the first Black Indian woman president, as well as her progressive, down-to-earth, and all-around good guy VP to the White House. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse, and I'll see you all in the next one.